Hello, and welcome to another live chat. Today's live chat is all about what it means to embrace mental stillness. And I'm so excited to invite my guest, Brianna Rhodes, and she is a mental health advocate that is very passionate about the intersection between faith and mental health. So I'm going to invite. Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm excited for our conversation for today.
Me too. And girl, I love your lipstick. It's
Oh,
so pretty.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so, if you could, just to give us a glimpse of like who you are, can you share who you are and like some fun facts about yourself?
Yeah. So you actually said my name right. I'm Brianna. Most people say Brianna.
Ah, yeah.
um, and let's see. I graduated with a degree in writing. I changed my major like 5 times, but I landed with writing. Um, so I have 2 cats. One of them is currently hunting at the window.
Oh.
Um, what else? I don't do much. I just work retail and spend time with my cats and friends here and there. Used to be a worship leader, so I play guitar and sing, and yeah, I think that's about it.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I empathize with the cat
Yeah.
lover
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, I had a cat also.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I get the whole like being a cat lover.
Yes, yes, I love them. They're my children.
Yes, absolutely. So, Brianna, I just want to go into your story and why you're passionate about mental health advocacy. So, can you share a little bit about your mental health journey?
Yeah, so I have like endured a lot of trauma. When I was younger, I used to like blame my parents for that stuff and like my diagnoses and everything. But now that I've grown, I can look back and see like the kinds of childhoods that they had and how their parents were. So it definitely gives me like a softer heart when it comes to like embracing those things. I think, sorry, Max is trying to get on the camera. Um, I think I was first put on a psych med when I was like 11, maybe, super young. Was diagnosed with, I think, like OCD and depression at that time. And I remember at some point I kind of fell away from treatment, and my father kind of just discontinued that. And it wasn't until he passed in 2016 that I started getting into therapy like regularly and getting on medications. Um, he unfortunately died from a drug overdose, so that like set off this whole journey of like inpatient stays at the mental hospital, all kinds of like new diagnoses and kind of just figuring out why I'm struggling the way I'm struggling and like putting names to that. And it's been quite, this year will be 9 years, I think. So it's been quite a long array of just trying to process trauma, get on the right meds, the whole shebang. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at is working through that, trying not to let those diagnoses define me, which is so hard, so hard. Um, but yeah, I would say that's pretty a little short gist of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, I want to say thank you for sharing your story and for also being real about what it means to navigate having a mental health condition. Because,
Yeah,
girl, I relate to
yeah,
you
yeah,
completely. Because, especially when you were talking about navigating like being in the hospital and then also being on medication at such a young age. Like, can you say a little bit more about your experience with medication at that young age from what you can remember?
Yeah, I just remember like my dad taking me to see the psychiatrist, and we both didn't like her, but for some reason we kept going back to her. And I believe the medicine she put me on was Celexa, and I don't remember how long I even took that medication. Unfortunately, I kind of like my brain has blocked out a lot of my childhood. Um, so I don't remember how long, but I don't think it was that long because then there was just this huge gap of no medications, no therapy. That stuff really hit when he passed. So
Mm,
yeah,
yeah. Wow, that must have been like a real like difficult journey, especially to like navigate like being on medication and then going for a long stretch of time without
yeah,
medication and therapy. So how did you like find your way back like into therapy and going on a regimen and all those things?
yeah, yeah. So once he passed in June, when I was 16, I moved out just because of the dynamic of my household. My needs weren't being met. So I moved out and I started living with different families. I wasn't in foster care, but just like families from churches I would go to or like the youth center I grew up going to. People would take me in. And I had just moved in with this family. I was there, I think, 2 weeks. And then my father passed. And I remember that's when the suicidal thoughts got like super active, super present. I was starting to act on them. They would like have to lock stuff up from me. And that's when I started going to the hospital. It was a senior year of high school, I think, was my first hospital stay. Um, and then when I was there, they put me on like a mood stabilizer and I'm pretty sure like an anxiety and antidepressant med. Um, and then once I hit college, everything really started to fall apart because I had like nobody. Um, I mean, I was just left to my own, and um, I started going to the hospital more while I was in college. It was very traumatic, just how college went in general, unfortunately. But it was in college that I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and it had been brought up to me before when I was younger, and I was like, I don't have a personality disorder. Like, I got so offended, and like, I'm pretty sure I wigged out on the therapist, and then we never talked about it again. But I actually let them explain it to me when I was in college in the hospital, and they gave me all this information on it. And I'm telling you, I have never felt so validated and like seen in my entire life until I read about that and was like, yep, yep, yep. You know what I mean? Like meeting
Wow.
all the DSM-5 criteria and everything. It was life changing because there was hope and there was
Mm,
help. And I wouldn't wish that disorder on anybody. It's incredibly difficult to live with, but I mean, I'm so grateful though that I have an explanation and a treatment plan now. So,
yes, absolutely. And what I found interesting about your initial reaction to getting diagnosed, it was like, yes, there's help, there's an explanation for this. Like, I have the information now. And to just give like a little background on my experience, it was like a polar opposite. Like, like, so I find it very interesting because I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder in January of 2021. So I got my diagnosis because of a manic episode that I
mm,
experienced, and I got hospitalized because of that.
yeah,
And so in the hospital they gave me the bipolar diagnosis, and I was just like devastated. I was like, no way, I don't have this. Like
yeah.
I'm like, I rebuke this. Like, this is not
Jesus.
like I was like all the way on the other end of it. So it's very interesting. I mean, now I can say like, thank God I know what's going on with me and we know how to treat
Yeah,
it and
yeah.
tackle it. But I just love that your initial reaction is like, finally, after all this
Right.
time, I have an explanation about it.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I also find it interesting that faith plays a role for you as well in your mental health journey. So can you tell me a little bit more about how faith like factors into all of this?
Whew, my faith journey's been rough. um, I I accepted Jesus when I was in middle school, I think, and I got baptized because everyone else in the youth group was getting baptized and I didn't want to be left out. So I don't think I 100% understood why I was doing it or what it meant, but I did know I believed in Jesus. And then just going through school, I got into, the party scene, drinking, smoking, didn't care about God. I still believed in him, but I was so angry about my trauma and the things that would just constantly play through my head that I just didn't want anything to do with him. And then college hit and I connected with him, and there was like, what's the word? Like some organization through my school that was like a ministry. That's the word I was looking for, a ministry. And I was heavily involved in that, and I felt so connected to the Lord and learned so much about him. And I got rebaptized in college, and my cat is gonna knock over my camera with his big booty. um, and he's just got a big booty.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, and then once I got out of college, everything started to kind of fall apart again. um I was renting from a professor, and I like one night got completely obliterated, drunk out of my mind, and we thought I had alcohol poisoning. So like an ambulance came and all this stuff, and that was like a big wake up call for me. And I knew I was going to be moving back home, and I knew I had no support. I had no church. I knew if I came back here where I was at, it was going to be bad. Like it was just all going to crumble. So I started going to this church before I moved back here, and I can't even explain the ways that I met the Lord being at this church. Like they were just unapologetic, like chasing after Jesus, spirit led, like wrecked me. Every Sunday I was getting wrecked. And I knew about the church for a while, but I didn't want to go because I had some like unresolved hurt with someone that was in a leadership position there. And I just felt one day that I really wanted to try that church. So I really wanted to resolve that unhurt, you know, situation. So I reached out and shared my feelings about what happened, and they responded, and it was just this beautiful like reunion of like this was all just a bunch of misunderstandings, like just totally healed that. And so I felt the grace and safety to go there. And come to find out, I told him he'd probably get mentioned at some point during this, but I got reconnected with someone I had met like 10 years prior at a different church, and he led worship there. And we got reconnected, and ever since, he's been like the big brother that I've always wanted. He's been walking with me daily. He prays for me daily. Like we have a once a week phone call. We meet once a month. Like he has been one of the biggest blessings of my entire existence.
Oh.
And he has taken the time to learn about mental illness. Like I've exposed him to things, and he'll be the first to say that he has never encountered before. and, and he's just taken the time to like learn about me, learn about these disorders, learn how to love me best. And I've learned more about God through him than anyone in my entire existence. Like the love of God comes through that man to me, and I just can't even explain it. Like my faith is completely radically changed since walking with him, and I'm just so grateful that all these little bits and pieces God brought together to bring me back. And yeah, that was a lot, but I'm just like super grateful for where I'm at now. And like this person has like visited me in the mental hospital. Like he's just been an amazing brother, and I seriously am just so grateful. But
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, that is so amazing.
Yeah.
And I love that, even though it was like rocky in the beginning, like you were able to get back to God and have that radical experience. And I love what you also shared about that brother in your life. Like, it's just amazing to see how community can be such a vital aspect of the healing journey, and also how we experience God through one another. Like you said,
Yeah.
like you had a radical experience of faith through this person. And I also love that he wanted to learn more about what you were going through
Yeah.
and was actually invested in helping you through like your mental health journey as well. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Yeah,
Like God loves us that much to send people to us to just pull us out of the pit. It's just I'm really grateful. Even on the hard days when I'm like, "Come on, God, like really? I can't. I can't do it anymore." I'm still just like reminded of those little things and big things that he's done to just keep me from falling,
yeah,
sinking.
absolutely. And speaking of community, I got some of my people on here
Yeah?
that, yeah, like she was one of those people for me too. So
Oh,
much
that's
like
awesome.
you, but she put in some comments that I want to read.
Oh, yay.
Said, I also got peer pressured into initial baptism in middle school. So you're not
Yep.
alone in that. She also said that she eventually got baptized again in high school at 17 after she fully surrendered. And that's also important. And her last comment is, you're not alone with having a rough faith story. This is so refreshing to hear that Jesus never stops pursuing us.
Aw.
Oh.
I'm about to like tear up over here. That's precious.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's very true. And that's why I talk about faith and mental health, because the faith element adds a lot of hope. And you mentioned this earlier. Like you had a lot of hope in even wanting to continue with your mental health journey. And I just love hearing stories about how God is able to transform our lives, even through these broken situations. Because
Yeah.
I can imagine like even getting diagnosed with your condition, and also with me, like I didn't know how I was going to see my way through this. I didn't know
Right.
what managing it was going to be like. And
Yeah.
then just having that faith in God and having my community surrounding me was just a huge help in the
Yeah.
process.
Yes. Amen to that.
For sure. So I also want to ask more about like mental health advocacy for you. Like, how did you get to the point where you're like, you know what, I want to advocate, I want to share my story more? Like, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah. One of the biggest things is like how misunderstood, misdiagnosed, all of the above borderline personality disorder is. A lot of people hear that and they think of multiple personality disorder or, things that aren't accurate. At first, I was kind of offended and didn't want to share that with anybody because I didn't want to be looked at in a light that just wasn't true. But the more I've done research papers on BPD now, like I've really dove into this diagnosis and what it contains. And my biggest takeaway is that it explains me and what I'm going through. It doesn't define or excuse anything. It
Right.
explains. And that has just been like super eye-opening to me because I'm able to articulate now like my needs and why I need those things instead of just being like out to nothing and just confused and just learning all these things, especially like I've been diagnosed with OCD, anxiety, all the it feels like everything. Um, but I just want to be a light. I want the Lord to use me even on the worst days. There's so many days where I want to give up and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. And I tell that to my brother that I was just talking about all the time. I'm like, I can't do it anymore, man. And he just reminds me, like, God is faithful. He will pull me through this. We will get over the mountain. And I just want to be that hope for other people. Who he is to me, I want to be to other people. I want people to know they're not alone. I want people to know they're loved by others and by God. I desire for people to want to live for themselves and not just to not hurt other people. I want people to know that there's purpose, they have purpose. Just all these different things that I wish I would have been told or accepted growing up, even through college. Just, I wish that stuff would have really sank in. And honestly, as I say this, it's sinking in even more. Like, I feel I don't know. I just because it's so hard to remember that and to believe it. And it's one thing to hear someone say it, but it's like I really want to be an example. Like, here's what I've been through. I promise you, like it may seem like it's never going to end, but I mean, we get to live in eternity with the Lord, you know, like if you accept him, of course. And I'm just trying so hard to hang on and to make a difference in this world until I do see him face to face. Um, Man, what a beautiful day that will be.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I just love that your desire to want to be that light and that hope for other people. It just makes me so happy because it's like there are so many mental health advocates, but there's not that many Christian mental health
Yeah.
advocates. And that's the thing. It's like when we share our stories, people are always like, wow, how did you get through that in such a short space of time? And I'm like, God makes the difference. Like,
Amen.
difference for me. And so, like, I'm just so happy to hear that you are in a place where you can be able to be that light for others. And I can imagine, like you said initially, like that fear and that stigmatization of just like, ooh, I have this and now people are going to look at me a little bit differently. Like, what were some of the things that kind of helped you through those initial feelings?
That's a good question. Hmm. I think doing more research on it personally really helped because it helped me to understand, no, you're not like this, you know, and just to get those explanations, and also just having those few people in my life that have poured into me and helped remind me who defines me and like what he says about me. I need to get into the Bible more and really learn what he says about me. I struggle with that,
Me
but
too.
um just yeah, I think I've really had to trust people who can see the big picture. That's like how my brother is. He can see the big picture, and sometimes I get stuck by that tree. That tree is just in my face and I can't see around it. So there's an element of trust that comes in too, and trusting God that what his plan is the best for me. That's incredibly difficult too, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially with like trying to see the forest through the trees, like you mentioned. Like, yeah, it's like I get hung up on that a lot too, where it's just like, oh God, like, why can't, I get to that next step? Like, why is this so hard? And it's just, and the nature of dealing with a mental health condition is those moments of feeling like, very low and feeling like, okay, I'm not going to get through this because it's a daily thing that you have to learn how to manage. It's not just
Yeah.
like, okay, a one and done thing. Okay, I fixed it. It's fine. It's not going to come up again.
Right.
But it's something that we need to learn how to manage on a day to day. And I'm glad you said that you have, like, again, your brother to help you through, like, talking through these situations and really understanding, like, what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to talk a little bit about just your journey with learning how to trust God a little bit
Mm.
more. I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, but I do want to harp on like, building that trust with God. So is there any like particular like tool or something that you've learned along the way in terms of like growing your trust in God, and how has that helped
Whew. You ask good questions,
you?
girl. That to be honest, I'm still working on that. I feel like it's different every day. Some days I'm like, maybe not that close, but like I try to. Well, that's the thing. It's not like out of my own effort, you know. Like thankfully, he meets me where I'm at and holds my hand. Um, Man, the trust and like having trauma in the background really affects trust. And that's been one of the biggest things that my brother's been showing me, is that I can trust God as a father, that he is a good father. Like that has been the hardest concept for me to believe, accept, even just see in general. Um, so I'm still working on that every day. I don't know that there's anything specific that's been all that helpful, except for just trusting my brother and what he's been teaching me. I don't know if there's anything. It's so difficult. Trusting God is like the hardest thing ever.
Yes.
Um, but I know when I've given him little bits of trust in the past, I've seen what he's done with it, And so that's proof in what they say, proof in the pudding or
Yeah.
whatever, that he's good. Like he's faithful and he's not gonna let me fall, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And girl, I'm right there with you. Like, I still haven't like mastered the whole like trust
Yeah.
thing because
Yeah.
I found that it's easy to trust God in certain areas where, like you said, there hasn't been a huge trauma.
Mm,
Like, I trust that He's going to provide because I've seen provision, or I trust that He's going to protect because I've seen protection. But in terms of like you said, seeing Him as a heavenly Father, like I have a lot of trauma in that area. And so
yeah.
it's really hard to navigate that. But the beauty of it that I find is that God is so patient with
Mm,
us, even when we're trying to like navigate all these other things, he's still there waiting for us. And it's like, it's taking you some time, but we're gonna go through this.
right.
And I think that's the beauty of building a relationship with God, and especially in dealing with trauma as well. And it's not like we're just gonna lean all the way into the faith and not have the tools to manage trauma. Like,
Yeah.
both of them are important as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I do have a question in regards to like stigma in church.
Mm.
So, because I know the church community has some interesting views on mental health. And so, what was your experience like in, navigating mental health while going to church? Like, have you ever told your church community about this, and how did that go?
Well, um, this one church I was a part of, not gonna rant about it forever, but one of the pastors made a comment to me once, that really wrecked me in a bad way. He didn't, first of all, he didn't know me. He didn't really have a right to say what he said. Um, and he used the excuse of, well, not excuse, but he said like, I feel like I have to call out this spirit of attention seeking in you. That's like what he said. And yeah,
Oh,
and there's like, when he first said it, I had like, my brain just blank. But I also was so triggered because with BPD and honestly just mental illness in general, that's like a big, like, stigma or issue or whatever, is that everyone thinks we're just attention seeking, you know? And that's something I've battled and wrestled with my entire life. There are times when I can fully say, yeah, I did that stuff, attention seeking, like, but I was a kid, you know, or I don't know, or I didn't know any other way to get my needs met. So to hear that as a grown adult from a pastor, just like, I can't even explain to you. And I tried many times to like talk it out with him and like kind of come to like a mutual understanding, but I still unfortunately still feel decently bitter about it. um because it's like, you didn't even know me and you are a pastor, and like, why, I don't know, just like, why would you say something like that?
yeah.
So I tried to like explain mental illness and like my diagnoses and explain how that is something I've wrestled with. It's one of my biggest insecurities. And to have that pointed out by someone, a leader in the church, was just, it was very hurtful for me. Um, and that's something me and my brother figure have like talked about and worked through as well. Um, so that is like one instance where I really struggled with mental illness in the church. A different pastor of that church, there was like a lead pastor and then like a executive pastor. I don't know the
Mm-hmm.
term, but he struggled with mental illness as well. And so there were times that we had some really fruitful conversations, about depression or whatever. And he understood and he listened, and it made all the world of a difference, you know. So it's kind of, you just never know what you're going to get. Some people have this whole notion already set up in their mind, and some pastors don't even want to mention mental illness. Like, you just never know.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful I've had both experiences, honestly, because they both have shaped me. But yeah, there's been some tough times when it comes to the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, I agree with Marilyn. She put ew at that pastor. So
Yeah. Wouldn't it
real.
be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if he saw this?
Well,
Oopsies.
honestly, I think there's just like a huge misconception. First off, I want to say sorry that you had to deal with that and that you're way better than me in terms of like trying to talk to him and what, girl, that would have been the last Sunday
Right,
you saw me.
right.
Just saying. But that aside, I feel like there's like a huge misconception as to like what mental health conditions are in terms of spirituality.
Mm,
Because I feel like a lot of people, because it's an invisible illness, they think that it has to do with the spirit realm. And
yes.
like, no, sweetheart, it's in the brain.
Yep.
Like, it's a physical, my brain is
Right.
physical. It's, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Yes.
understand that. And the way that I compare it is like I try to draw from like physical illnesses. Like, let's say you break your leg, right? And you don't go up to the person who broke their leg and said, "Whoa, like, you probably should have prayed more, otherwise your leg wouldn't have been broken, or maybe you should have went to church or you wouldn't be dealing with that." Like, we don't say that to people who have broken legs, headaches, or chronic illnesses. But when it comes to mental health, it's like, "Oh, you have a spirit
Yep.
in you," or "You need to, get an exorcism because
Right,
she's
right.
out." It's like, I mean, and it's not to say that, the church hasn't been getting better. I mean, I've been to some churches that have some real good mental health support, but I feel like we have a long way to go
Mm,
also in terms of like really understanding what mental health actually is. And I love, to your point earlier, you mentioned that you learned more about it and that's how you were able to get more of an understanding. And I think we need to do the same thing in the church. Like the same way we want to educate ourselves about politics and, finances and whatnot. Like we have to do the same thing for mental health because otherwise we're going to ostracize a lot of
yeah.
people.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Yes. That's so
Yeah.
well said. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I'm so sorry that you went through that again because, like, that's just, yeah, like, we need to do better for sure.
Yeah. I know he has a good heart and I know he didn't mean to hurt me, but you got to be careful with what you say to people because you never know. You just never know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for real. Oh, and Marilla, again, she says, as a writer, if you don't want people to talk or write about you, the solution is easy: act better.
Yeah, period. This girl's awesome.
Yo, yes, she is amazing. That is like my big sister figure, you know?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so true. It's like if you just treat people with
Mm.
compassion, that's like the biggest thing. And I see a lot of people just like until it hits like, oh,
My cat
no,
just
you're
flipped
good.
out. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay.
How true it is. That's how true it is.
Right. Whew.
um, but no, I feel like, until it hits home for you, because I'm not gonna lie, I used to be one of those people that was like, oh, I don't, understand how people could, dealing with mental illness, like and the outbursts and things that people would have. I would look at that and be like, oh wow, I don't know what's going on here, until
Right.
it hit for me. And
Right.
like, oh, I have my moments too, and I really need to read up on this. So I feel like just having that level of empathy could actually make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so since then, how have like your mental health advocacy intersected with like your church life? Like, do people like have questions or like how do you interact and tell people about it?
Yeah, currently I haven't been going to church in a while. Oopsies. um, I need to definitely get back into it. The previous church I went to, their pastors, well, the main pastor, him and his wife were amazing. When I first started coming, they asked to meet with me to get to know me, and I shared with them, some of my mental struggles and things like that. And he was like, so if you're not at church for a couple weeks in a row, I can reach out and make sure you're okay. I was like, wow, that would be amazing. Like 100%. You don't hear that hardly at all. And it was a smaller church. It's not like there were like hundreds of people because that would probably not be as realistic. But um, just to see how they were stewarding, and like how they were leading their congregation. It was super encouraging, and I felt very heard and listened to, and um, like I mattered and my struggles mattered. Uh, I can't decide if I'm gonna go back to that church. I kind of feel led to try a new one. I am a part of Celebrate Recovery for like the alcohol and like marijuana issues. I've got almost 3 months completely sober, which is the longest I've went in at least 3 or 4 years. So um, I kind of want to try out that church where I go for Celebrate Recovery. But it's like massive. It's massive. And that just screams anxiety for me. But I don't know. Not sure yet what I'll do. But uh, yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. Like it's finding a good church is like, it's hard in the
Mhm.
beginning, because you want to be able to find a community that you can thrive in.
Yeah.
So I totally get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, Brianna, I want to thank you so much for joining me. And before we go, I have one final question for you.
Yeah.
What advice or words of encouragement do you have for someone who's struggling to manage their mental health?
Don't give up. As cliche as it is, don't give up. The storm, it will not last forever. Um, Reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out, as uncomfortable as that is and how intimidating that can be. Reaching out could literally be a matter of like life and death for somebody. Like, be honest, be open. Remember that these diagnoses and these struggles, they don't define you. They just help explain you. Um, you're not weird. You're not broken. You're not less than. You're not whatever because you have trauma or these struggles or diagnoses. Any of it. You're loved. You're seen. You're known. You're enough. You matter. All those things. I wish I could just get a microphone and scream it to everybody on this earth until they all believed me. um, yeah, just don't give up. Don't give up. Yeah.
That is amazing. So thank you again. This was
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
You're awesome. It's been really great talking to you.
Yes, same. And yeah, everyone stay tuned for more empowering episodes on these Rough Edges live chats.
Yes.
All right.